Hello and welcome to Rose Red Homestead. Today we're going to be talking about frozen vegetables. I do an awful lot of reading. I read mostly, when I was a college professor, I did reading in my area of expertise, which was science and science education. But now that we are doing full-time our YouTube channel, the reading that I do is related to the things that we care about to show on our YouTube channel. And so I do a lot of reading about food and emergency preparedness and so forth. And one of the articles that I came across, it's been several weeks ago, was they were asking people how they were coping and what they were doing as substituting because food prices are so high. What do you do instead of purchasing the things that you used to purchase that are now maybe perhaps beyond your ability to purchase? And I found the article actually quite sad for the things that some people are having to do. There was one person in particular, and in my mind I envisioned that he was a young man, but I don't know gender or age at all. But this person said that it was very difficult for them to get fresh fruit, to afford fresh fruit. And so the only fruit that they were able to get for their nutrition was the baby food pouches of fruit. And I thought, oh my goodness. And there are, I recognize that right now times are very, very tough for all of us. And there are some times when it is just very difficult to make purchases beyond what we're just going to use for the day. It's tough to buy extras of anything to have on our food storage shelves. And yet, it is really such a money-saving thing to be able to buy a few things in bulk. And that's what we do big time. We buy almost everything we can possibly buy in bulk because it is so much less expensive. Now, the thing that we're going to talk about today is the advantages of using frozen vegetables over fresh vegetables. And this article that I'm quoting was from a couple of dietitians who make some really good points. And these are actually points that we have talked about before on our channel, so it's nothing really new, but I'm going to present the 6 vegetables that they presented, and then we'll talk about that just a little bit. First of all, one of the things that they said is that it is sometimes very difficult to find the vegetables you want if they're out of season. And fresh vegetables, when vegetables are picked, when they are removed from the ground or from the plant, their mother plant, so to speak, they begin immediately to lose nutrition. The nutrients begin to just deteriorate slowly. The advantage that frozen vegetables have is that they are immediately brought into the warehouse and they are quickly steam blanched and then flash frozen, preserving more of the nutrients than would be there if you purchase the same things fresh in the grocery store. Because by the time they prepare those in packages or portions, or put the rubber band around the celery, or put the spinach leaves in a container, and they're shipped off to the grocery store, the more time that takes, by the time the produce gets in your grocery store, it is generally a few days. All of that time, the nutrients are decreasing. And so buying frozen vegetables allows us to have the ability to have greater amount of nutrition from the same foods that otherwise would be fresh. And then the other thing is the advantage for freezing is, of course, not only does it preserve vegetables at the peak of their ripeness, but they're also blanched. So if you like to do things like dehydrate vegetables or freeze-dry vegetables, you can buy them frozen. They're already prepared. They're generally much cheaper than if you buy fresh, unless you have your own garden or other sources. But I always use frozen vegetables whenever I dehydrate or use our freeze dryer. I always use frozen because they're ready to go and the prep time is just cut way, way down. And then, of course, another great advantage is the shelf life. You can keep frozen vegetables in your freezer for months and months and months without them losing any nutrition at all. Along with the shelf life is that these are all ready to cook. I remember sitting on the back porch shelling peas for hours and hours and hours, and it just seemed like such a little dab of of peas for the amount of work that I felt like I was doing. So I'm at this point in my life especially very willing to pay to have them already ready to go, frozen, ready to heat and eat. So what are the 6 that they recommend? Well, the first one, the top one at their list was broccoli. Now, what they say about broccoli is that it's very rich in vitamin C and vitamin K. Also, it's rich in fiber. And the thing I like about frozen broccoli, and I have used frozen broccoli over fresh broccoli for years, much prefer to do that because there's far less waste. I end up cutting a lot of the stem, and yes, I've used some of the stems for other things, but sometimes I just don't have time to fool with that, and so I just lop off a chunk of that stem so that I can get to the florets. So you can buy broccoli prepackaged in spears, and the spears are the edible part until it gets to that thicker stem. So you have some stem going, and I'm peeling one right now, so it's about this tall. And you can also get the florets, and we usually prefer to get the florets. And I have a package of broccoli that I really like to get when they have them at Costco. It's a big bag, and it's very inexpensive, and you open the bag and there are 4 smaller packets about this size. So it makes it very convenient to be able to use that for broccoli. Then the next one is spinach, and I have had a love-hate relationship with spinach practically my whole adult life. I love spinach. I love it. Jim and I, neither one of us care for kale at all. And hundreds of our viewers have tried to convert us by tricking ourselves into, because it is so nutritious. Well, if you put it in this, or if you put it in that, or if you grind it up, or if you do this. When spinach is almost as good, plus with all of the other things that we eat, we get what we would have gotten in the kale. But with spinach, the downside for me with spinach, and I've grown spinach before, the downside is when you buy it in the store, I like to buy it fresh for salads, and it comes in those little plastic things with a lid that you pop off, and then there's all the baby spinach leaves. So I'll use a couple of handfuls for this and that, and you've seen some of the videos where I have done just that. Well, and then it sits in the fridge for a couple of days, and I don't have a recipe that uses fresh, and I'm not going to make a salad at that time, and it starts getting slimy. So before it does that, I'll hurry up and cook it, and it cooks down to nothing. It cooks down to barely a little dab for each of Jim and me for a serving. And then I just, with frozen spinach, do you remember that it used to come in those little boxes that were like bricks? And you'd cook them forever, and anyway, they have learned a lesson and they package it differently now. And so this is cut leaf spinach, and when you open up the package and take a look at it, it's these lovely little pieces. It's not in a great big brick. And these, when I cooked some for supper last night, and I'll show you this image right now. So that's what we had for supper last night, and it cooked up just beautifully. And so I'm now sold on this cut leaf frozen spinach in this type of packaging. And then what they say about spinach is it adds, is chock full of iron and a multitude of vitamins. And so you can use it so many different ways, just fresh like we did last night, or you can put it in soups and stews, and if you do smoothies. I had a healthy lifestyle doctor for about 5 years while I was at the university, who was monitoring my weight and my healthy condition. And one of the things that she said is, don't make smoothies. She said, with smoothies, your blender does the work. Let your body do the work. You can eat the same ingredients, but let your body work to break those down. And I just thought that was really wise. And so I just eat fresh vegetables instead of doing smoothies. But I really like peas. And we buy peas. We buy peas in a 5-pound bag. And I just priced a 5-pound bag at our local grocery store, and it was under $5. And so I can get a lot of these little serving bags, and this is how I pre-package some of our vegetables. I don't do broccoli that way, and I don't do spinach that way for perhaps obvious reasons. I guess I could work on doing spinach, but I can't ever find spinach in bulk, cut leaf spinach in bulk. But with these, and with a lot of other veggies, I just put a cup and a half in here, and that's 2 servings. And then we package them in bins, and you've seen me do that. I have videos on doing that. In fact, I'll put one of the videos at the end of this one. And then with peas, it's a great source of protein. Peas are very high in protein. And so those of us that are really watching our protein and trying to make sure we get enough protein, peas are a great addition to our diet for that. Now with cauliflower, what they say is a great source of fiber, and it cooks well when frozen. It is a low-carb replacement for things like making pie crust or rice, or there's a lot of things where you can cook cauliflower and run it through a ricer, make little tiny little beads of it, and do all kinds of things. I've never done any of that, but I'm sure many of you have. And if you have, why don't you share some of the things that you have done with cauliflower? But once again, these are just the florets, so I don't have to worry about the stem or anything else. This little package was under $2, and this will serve Jim and me 2 meals. And so that's about 50 cents a serving for this nice vegetable. Then the next one is mixed vegetables, and they have quite a bit to say about mixed vegetables. It's very convenient, they say, to incorporate a number of healthy issues into a single serving of vegetables. Now, this is actually my favorite way to do mixed vegetables. And once again, I do it in these little packets, and we buy this by the 5-pound in bulk, so that I have several bins that have these veggie packets in them, and I have peas and carrots and green beans and a lot of other things there. But the other thing about mixed vegetables is that you can get them in such a variety of combinations. Here's one that I picked up, and again, this was under $2. It's Italian blend with zucchini, cauliflower, carrots, Italian beans, lima beans, and red peppers. And then here is one. This is a stir-fry mix, and this is a big old thing. And let's see what it has. Combination of broccoli, sugar snap peas, green beans, carrots, yellow carrots, mushrooms, red bell peppers, water chestnuts, and yellow onions. And there's no reason why this has to be used as stir-fry just because it's a stir-fry mix. You could also very easily cook some of this for dinner and have a lovely vegetable combination on that as well. And then the last one that they cut bell peppers. And I thought, what? I don't believe that I have ever seen in the grocery store a package like this where it's chopped bell peppers. Now, maybe they exist in a fancier store. You know, we live kind of out in the boonies, and so our stores aren't too fancy. We're kind of country. But maybe in town at one of the really fancy grocery stores, they might have frozen bell peppers, and you could do those yourself as well. What I do with bell peppers, and I love it, is I freeze dry bell peppers. This is our tricolor bell pepper mix, and I've done these several times, and we do have a video on this too. And the convenience, they say, with bell peppers is that you can just toss them into salads or soups or stews or stir fries or whatever you want. Well, you can do the same with these as well. You can reconstitute them or not. They're quite crunchy. They're actually kind of a tasty little snack. So I really appreciate the dietitians and the advice that they give us. And I did pick up on cut leaf spinach this time, which was a new thing that I learned about. I also think that we need to be sure that we don't use articles like this to limit us, because there are many vegetables out there that we can do the very same thing with that are loaded with vitamins. Frozen vegetables are one of the best nutritional things that you can have in your freezer because of the vitamins and minerals and the fiber and the protein and all the other things that are so prevalent with different vegetables. I have learned to love okra. My first husband was from Texas. We lived in Houston while I put him through dental school, and then in El Paso. And my children, 4 of my 6 children were born in Texas. And there's a lot of okra in Texas, and I'd never heard of it, never tasted it before I married him. And I really learned to like it. So I like okra. And even our little store right here has cut okra that is frozen. So that's fun too. So we don't need to limit ourselves to these 6. We can put in our freezer whatever we want just knowing that the basic idea of the shelf life, easy to cook, already prepared, saving more nutrition rather than buying fresh in the grocery store. There's no replacing fresh. Even if the nutrients here are a little better, there are just sometimes when only fresh will do for me, and probably the same is true for you. But I felt like this was good information to share, especially in these difficult times in which we live. So I hope this is helpful. Give us your hints and what you do in terms of frozen veggies, and we can all learn from each other, which is the thing that I just love so much about our community. So thanks so much for being with us, and we will see you again very soon for more videos.